the TSN Trade Bait Board is officially out. Our boy Frankie Saravelli is just throwing some grenades into the old rumor mill.
Well, who was, I mean, I don't know, just off the top of your head, was it Laine that was your kind of biggurst surprise on there? Like, I
guess so, although we got tipped off yesterday, right, that Laine would be a part of that. But Matt Murray is currently at number 1. That's not a surprise. We had Jim Rutherford basically say that a week
flat
ago.
Out. Hey, tell Saravelli to put him on your list. You know, like
he's
flat out said that.
He's like sandbagging Frank's list. He's like, before Frank even brings that out, I got Matt Murray at number 1. Like, Murray's so getting flipped. There is some Maple Leaf content, though. Andreas Johnsson at 7. Freddie Andersen at 19, and that speaks to what we have talked about over the past couple of weeks, that the rumor mill, it's out there. It's percolating in the hockey world. And Freddie Andersen's name has been out there to the point where I believe his agent recently even acknowledged that and suggested that we're aware of it. He's got 1 year left on his deal, and something's going to have to happen. And with Seattle looming in the future and the expansion draft, there's a lot of uncertainty in the NHL.
Right.
But I would look at the Leafs board and say if I had to put money on one guy being dealt, I think Johnsson would be the guy that I would put the money on. I think Johnsson deserves to be on this trade bait board. That's not inside information. I'm just basing it on what they have, what he gets paid.
Yeah, too rich for that spot. You know what I mean?
If you think Nick Robertson's ready, you think Mikheyev is going to stick around, you've got Zach Hyman. If you think maybe those are your 3 left wingers in the top 9, then again, you're it's not that Johnsson may not be an improvement on a couple of those guys. It's just you feel like you can replace them on the cheap. It's almost more economical than anything else.
Right, right.
And he had a down year, which scares me a little bit because I do think he's got a little bit of bite. He's a little bit of a greasy player.
Oh,
you mentioned the term earlier, the Swedish kind of
he's got
greasy.
that Swedish, I call it the Swedish bite. Like those guys, it's not that they're fighting, but man, do they compete, and they play in that gray area, like the little reverse hits, the hook and the slash here, and they're right in the scrums afterwards. Like, they're not guys that are dropping the gloves and going toe to toe, but and the one thing that drove me nuts when I played and watching them, they always run picks. Detroit was famous for running picks. Like it was, and I think that was a Babcock thing. Like I don't know how many times, a guy would step out of the corner. There'd be another Detroit Red Wing standing there, like running a pick and creating a lane. Like those are little things that when I looked at Babcock coach teams, especially in Detroit, like they always had these like little plays that would annoy you because they were tough to play against. Really.
I'm not a big believer in duplicate players too. If that Nick Robertson, a 5'10" left-handed shot with some speed that can score maybe 20 goals, he is a young kid, but do you really need the same player? Like, get a different element in there. You look at some of these teams that are still around here, there's a lot of variety as far as what they're bringing to the table offensively. Big physical guy, forechecker, grinder. There's not really duplicates out there. Everyone's got something different to offer, so there's no sense of having 2 guys that are the same thing.
Well, I think that's a very good point. I think that Robertson is probably built in a similar mold to Johnsson. I think they're hoping that he's got a higher ceiling, but I don't know if he's going to reach it this year. There's no guarantees just because Nick Robertson played 4 games in August in a bubble that he's ready to perform next year.
Yeah, if he scores 7 goals, you'd be saying, "Man, I really miss Johnson's 25."
That's my point. I think you're selling low on Johnsson, and I do think he's got a little bit of bite, which is an ingredient that I think is needed on this team. I'm not saying that he should be off the trade board or anything like that. No. I'd just be cautious. I wouldn't just give him away for the sake of it because of a cap move.
No,
I'd be looking to get something in return, or I'd have a game plan on how I'm going to replace that.
Agreed. I think you need equal or an upgrade in that position. And to O's point, you need some type of bite. You need a player that looks different than the other two, Mikheyev and Robertson. And we know what Hyman is. Hyman's a hard player to play against. And he's found a role, especially, playing, I guess you call it, on that top line. But I think that left wing, that position, I guess, the defensive core, the depth of it, but the left side is not the Leafs' strength. It's really not, considering what you have down the middle, considering what you have on the right side, the left side up front, and every team has
realistically, you're not going to get that.
You're not going to
match Matthews, Tavares, Marner, and Nylander.
No.
You do need balance, and you need balance. You're talking more or less your bottom six here, which I think is likely going to change. But the Freddie Andersen inclusion here in the trade bait board, again, is not necessarily a surprise. I think it speaks to what we've talked about the past couple of weeks, that there appears to be a lot of goaltending options, or potentially. Like, we may see some musical chairs here with a lot of different names up for grabs, and it may be a scenario where they just feel like they need a different look. You know, it's that they like the tools of Freddie, and they like him when he's got his A game on, but he's been inconsistent, and in the playoffs, his history is what it is. And it may simply just be we need to find a different look, and this may be the summer to be able to find that.
Agreed.
So it's almost like we're looking for a new goalie, which means Freddie's got to go. You're not going to keep him. Like, Jack Campbell's going to be the backup. So if you're going to sign a Robin Lehner or a trade for someone, whoever that might be, Freddie's got to go. I mean, just based on the numbers, he's going to have to go. And then what the value is you're getting in return, that's a completely different discussion, because he's got 1 year left until UFA status. He's 31 years old. You know, I think he's a true starter, but he hasn't proven to be a top 5 guy in the league. Like, bona fide 65 games, you're getting Vezina type numbers. Like, could he get traded somewhere and be a tandem? Like, I guess that's a possibility.
Well, he's only making $5 million too. So if you've got a backup already in your wheelhouse that makes a couple million or something like that, then yes, it would be a tandem situation. But he is a guy who's proven that he can play 60 games. So maybe it's an organization that is looking at him that needs stability in that position. They don't need, it's a step ladder. They don't need a guy who's battle tested and all that. They need a guy who can give you stability in that position, and then we'll roll the dice come playoff time, because, everyone's talking. He's 0-8 in clinching games or what? It's 0-8 and, that's not a great stat.
Big games. That's a brutal stat. I mean, that stat speaks for itself. There's no defending it. But maybe he gets more opportunity, and then stats are always meant to be changed. We'll see.
Exactly.